We are now recording. Welcome everyone to joining Chips and Grits, and welcome a lot of you to the first time participation. Thank you very much for joining us. This is an informal session. We pick a topic to start with, but we can vary off onto anything you want to talk about for the day. Welcome to all of you who didn't get to join us live, but will watch this later as we post it on the web. We're still doing very well in terms of reaching a lot of people that way. The last I looked, we were up in the 40s to 50s people that look at this after we posted. So glad we're reaching out, and a lot of people are benefiting from the things we have to say. Topic today I picked was difficult things to mount on the lathe, and how do we go about doing that? And I don't know how many of you have something. I have some pictures to share. Let's see. I guess the thing to do is we'll start to do that. Let me share. Oh, I got to do this. It works better when I record it if I go to speaker mode. There we go. Which is interesting because when I do that, it never shows me. Can you see that?
Yes,
Yes.
we can.
This is a burl that I picked up many, many years ago. And it looks slick mounted on the lathe. However, did you see it change? I see somebody shaking their head no.
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 All right.
Change.
Let's go to that one. Now it changed?
Yes.
Yes.
You see this cute little area here? Inside that is pretty well all rotten. It just barely has enough to be held by my tailstock. So I'm thinking I had to focus on doing something with just this center bulb. And hopefully I've got solid enough material on the left that I can get a tenon and then maybe hollow it from the right, but I'm not sure. I was originally thinking I would make what's going to the right as the base, but I don't know that I have any material in there that when I get done with it would stay to leave me a solid bottom. Any other thoughts on what to do with this?
So to do that and focus on the bulb, would you take a chainsaw and then just cut off each of those sides?
Fortunately, I have a bandsaw big enough to take care of that.
Oh, okay.
But yes, that is exactly what I was thinking about doing. The way it's set up now, I can't turn it that way because this little ear that sticks up on the left will hit my bed of the lathe the way I have it mounted now.
You could just cut that off, Bruce.
Yeah. Yeah. My guess is I would cut through. Can you see my cursor?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
I think I would cut through maybe about here and then about here. And just focus on this big ball in the middle and see what I get.
What about on that first end that you pointed out, Bruce? If you made that a tenon on there?
Yes, if I can find solid enough wood.
Bruce, what are your ideas? What are you doing with it? A vase, a bowl? What?
I was thinking a large bowl. And maybe keeping as much as the outside as possible. So that maybe the bowl would come up and kind of curve in. So you go down and just hollow out. I have no idea the wall thickness I'm going to be able to end up with. And
Okay,
Maybe keep your options
here's
open. Once you've cut off the two ends, look at it again. You might mount it a different way. You might turn it 90 degrees or something, depending on what you see when you cut those off. And if there's rotten wood in there, or if there's some grain that you like, you don't necessarily need to keep it this orientation, do you?
I do not.
here's
Upland balance.
my thought, Bruce, is I think I would where you have the two round pieces, kind of looks like a snowman on its side, basically. But I think I would separate that. Just make end up with two pieces. The bigger piece, just put it on the lathe and turn it and make your large bowl. But the smaller piece, the head, if you will, clean that out and put it in a vacuum pot first for cactus juice, and then put it in resin and turn it. So you end up with two bowls. Now that's my thought, but it'd be interesting to see what other people think.
How
When you get
punky
the
is that wood in that soft spot? Is it, you said it doesn't, you don't have a lot of good wood in there? Have you tried to pick it out at all?
My finger can pick it out.
How deep?
I didn't explore how deep, but I'm in about 2 inches deep in that spot where you can see.
Yeah.
And coming in from the bottom, if I'd moved my fingers a little more, my guess is I'd be in like 4 or 5 inches.
Wow. And
once you cut that center part out, cut the ends off and have the center part left. If that's good and solid, could you possibly core it and get more than one bowl or more than one vessel out of it if it's really good wood and really good grain inside?
Hmm. I hadn't thought of that. I guess that depends on whether or not I can get a good tenon to hold it on the other end
thank you.
to be
Do
able
you know what kind of wood it is?
found.
F
Wood.
FOG wood, found on
Out of
ground, huh?
FOG wood found on ground.
Yeah.
Hey, Bruce, I don't know if you saw Susan's question. She wants to know what cactus juice is.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did not see that question. Thank you. Um, Cactus juice. Mark, you use that a bit. You want to explain it?
Yes, sir. It's a wood stabilizing agent. I have a vacuum pot, uh, different, of course, from the pressure pot. Um, you pour, um, well, first you put your wood or whatever you're trying to turn into a um, plastic container, um, into put the wood into that container, and then pour the cactus juice. It's again, it's a stabilizing agent. It comes in a gallon container, and when you get it, there's a small little capsule to activate it. Um, but you pour that in there and cover the wood, and of course put a weight on it to make it stay down, and then turn the vacuum on. The vacuum draws the cactus juice into all the punky and rotten wood into those fibers, and it stabilizes those fibers. The process, well, when you do it, you got to watch through the top of it. There's a glass lid that pulls down onto the top of the pot, and you watch, and the bubbles are coming out like crazy. and you keep doing it until the bubbles are gone. And that means that all those fibers in the wood are totally soaked with that agent. So after that has finished, in that stage of the process, you take it out and let it dry, but you're not done yet. You take and put it in a toaster oven. Uh, I don't recommend taking it into the house in your regular oven, and you and put it in the regular oven. That might be ill-advised with the spouse. But anyway, put it in the toaster oven and turn it up to 200 degrees for 2 hours, and 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 that fully solidifies and hardens the resin into the wood. So then you're ready to do the pressure pot and put the resin in. So that's the difference in the vacuum pot and the pressure pot. Questions?
Have you ever done a stabilized pen blank?
I have not. I have some
No, Susan
that
Mark.
have been done, but I have not done one.
Yeah, I was asking Susan whether she had ever done one, and that if you have done a stabilized pen blank, usually cactus juice is what they use to stabilize those.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I had one pen blank that was given to me that was a mixture, so it could have been because when I was turning it, it wasn't a solid resin and it wasn't a solid wood and it kind of sheared. So it turned a lot different. So it might have been one.
They look different. It's like almost like turning popcorn, it feels like.
Yeah. So that's probably what it was because I was expecting something hard. And when I started turning it, it went, well, I'm like, ooh, I got to back off a little.
Mark, maybe you can clarify. I may be wrong, but Cactus Juice is a brand name, isn't it, for the stabilizing liquid?
It probably is. And there's maybe others out there. All the videos and information that I've read, they say use cactus juice, and so that's what I ordered, and it is pricey. So, but you can use, and the good news is you can use it over and over and over until it's gone. The bad news is that cactus juice is good for 1 year. After that, it loses its stabilizing properties. Um, I I have the gallon container that I have, or it's maybe 3/4 of it left that I have in the jug. Although I did read on the internet that if you keep it in the refrigerator, and I have a small one in my workshop, keep it in the refrigerator, it will last for up to 2 years. So that's what I do. So somebody has a piece of wood they'd like to stabilize and go through this process, bring it over. I'll help you with it and use that cactus juice. I don't want it to go bad. I'd rather, somebody use it on their project rather
And,
than it go
and
bad.
and you would use that for a lot of the softer woods if you're going to do some resin with it. Is that correct?
Not if
To
you
Yes.
just do resin. Resin would
Yes.
be a separate process.
Yes.
Right.
That's the next stage.
The next stage.
After you do this stabilizing. I have a piece of wood that I'm going to show you here when it's my turn to talk about the project that I'm thinking of doing it that process with. But so the going bad in 1 year or 2 years, I put a date with a Sharpie um, on it when when I open it, when I activate it with that little tube, so that I know how long it's been there, you know. So anyway,
I,
that's
I I just looked it up online and it is a resin. I was trying to figure out why you had to put it in a vacuum, but it looks like it is a resin. It comes in different sizes from,
you're you're muted.
I guess my space bar wasn't working. I did look it up online and it is a resin. I guess I didn't realize that Cactus Juice was a resin and it is the name brand, but they do have multiple sizes from 1 quart to 2 gallon. And it is pricey, like Mark says, just a quart is $30. But I was trying to figure out why you had to use a vacuum pump with it. And so that makes more sense since it is a resin.
Kathy,
Seems
think of it this way. When you put it in the vacuum pot and turn the vacuum on, the vacuum draws the air out of the fibers. When you turn the vacuum off, since that void is there, it sucks something back in, and the resin is all around the wood. So that's when it gets sucked back into the wood. The
Mhm.
pressure doesn't necessarily force the cactus juice into the wood, but it goes there once you remove the vacuum and it says, whoops, I got a void. I got to get something to fill this up. And that's when it sucks back in the cactus juice.
Okay, thanks.
So the vacuum pot has a see-through lid, and it doesn't clamp down. When you put that lid, I could probably go get it, but the lid just sits up on the top, and it's got a silicone ring around the top. You see through, and you can see those bubbles coming up, and when those bubbles stop, eventually with the pressure, usually around 23, 24 psi. Um, and when those bubbles stop, then you know you're done. You couldn't do that with a pressure pot. Pressure pot, there's no see-through lid at all on it. So that's the advantage, a difference between the two.
Yeah, and when you put the vacuum on, you do want to watch it because if all those bubbles fill up, it'll go into the plumbing for your vacuum, and then you freeze up your system. So you watch the bubbles rise up towards the lid. When they get close, you release the vacuum, let the bubbles drop down, then turn the vacuum back on, let the bubbles come up, and you keep cycling that way until you don't get very many bubbles back up out of the wood when you put the vacuum on.
That's a very good point, and I'm glad you brought that up because this is not a process that like the pressure pot, you put it in there and turn the pressure on and then walk away. You have to watch that um, bubbling process, and I'm glad you mentioned that because those bubble, if there's a lot of voids and a lot of punky wood, you potentially could like a pot on the stove, it could just boil up and then get into your fittings. So yeah, good point, Bruce.
So my question is, since cactus juice is a resin, if you're going to then use resin afterwards, why do you have to use the two resins?
Um, I don't know that I've never used the two of them together. Um, to me, I've always thought it's an either or proposition.
I
Uh,
think for what I've read in some of the books I got from the library from our club is for those softer woods and those woods that have, a lot of fibers, you that pre-treat with the cactus juice or some type of stabling agents will help your resin that you want, to do colors, so you want to do your colors, your mica powder or whatever, adhere better to that wood so that you can turn it easier.
Well, maybe I'm not explaining all of it correctly, but the cactus juice stabilizes the fibers and the wood itself, but it doesn't fill those voids in there. So, well, I'll just show you now that this piece of wood here, has a lot of um, really punky looking and voids down in there, so that the resin would get down inside that wood and solidify it and stabilize those fibers in there. Um, but it's not going to fill down in the little cracks and nooks and crannies there. It's not going to fill that. It just stabilize it. And then this one later, uh, after I go through that vacuum pod process, um, then I would fill it with resin, and that would fill all of those little voids. So I don't know.
You're
I don't
right.
know if I'm making sense, you know.
Yeah, that helps actually to think through it. But isn't that firewood, Mark?
Yes, well, since I have it here, I'll go ahead and talk about it. It on one side, it looks like it's just kind of eat out and punky there. On the other side, it looks like it was in somebody's fireplace at one time. Um, I was going to ask the group, if is this worth messing with? Is it, going to be? It would be interesting if I could get it put in resin and then turn it. And the other question is how to do it. Would I just try to do one big piece, or maybe cut it in half and then do two different ones? Um, would it be even worth messing with? Um, opinions, questions.
My first instructor, Phil Brennan, said that there's too much good wood to turn to bad wood.
Okay, so that's a vote for negative. Just throw it back into the fireplace, I guess.
I was going to suggest that, Mark, go ahead and finish the burning process.
Okay, yeah.
A
Mark, I
differing
think it depends
opinion.
on what you want to do with it. If you want a vase, you might keep that structure, but you're certainly not going to get a bowl out of it.
Uh,
That
Well,
was my thought.
let me,
A differing opinion.
No, I'm talking on Zoom.
You could get
oh,
anything you want out of it if you put resin in it to fill all the voids. You can make it any shape you want. And if you pick a color for that resin, or maybe something with some mica pad or something with some silver or gold, because that's all gray and black and basic colors. If you pick something that contrasts, you might end up that you're holding might just be a great background for the resin that you use. It depends how imaginative you are.
yeah, I don't know how many of you,
All great art broke the rules. It did something different. So I don't know exactly what it would be, but I think if you cut the top of that off and the part that's in your hand, you kind of kept that, you could make a cool shaped container with that. And you'd have great contrast with that gray and the almost white and the black, and then some kind of resin with, I think, mica powder in it would be a great contrast.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would think that if you would get it set up right, you could probably get at least 3 or 4 pens out of it.
okay, well,
wait. Mark, I don't know how many of you watch Sprague wood turning on YouTube,
I do.
but he works with things like that. And I think you're right, Mark. I would cut that thing in half and then wrap around the outside so you don't use too much resin, and then fill that inside with resin and then turn a vase or a bowl out of it. And I think it would be spectacular. Now, you're into going to be turning probably 50-50, it looks like, resin versus wood. And if you do the top half piece, you're going to be 3/4 resin and 1/4 wood. but get one that's got some transparency to it so the wood can come through and you can see it. And he does several pieces similar to that. In fact, he cuts up individual pieces and just stacks them and then fills around it with resin and then turns that to be a bowl too.
Susan is great at doing that, using existing scrap wood and putting it in a container and using resin. And she's just done some beautiful things with wood that the rest of us would have thrown away a long time ago.
I pick everybody's trash out of their containers at school. They're throwing this stuff away, and I'm like picking out of the trash can.
You're right, Bruce, about Jim Sprague. If you guys have never watched him, he's really good, and he does, and that's pretty much where I got the idea to do something like this. But you're right about using a lot of resin to work with this. So anyway, I I appreciate everybody's comments. I will contemplate whether or not I really want to proceed with it. So
You are going to have to cut it in half because it's too tall, it looks like, to fit in the 5-gallon pressure pot.
oh, I have a big pressure pot, so
Okay.
I could put this whole thing in the pressure pot, laying down,
Oh,
or
wow.
or this way.
Yeah.
I have a 10-gallon pressure pot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's 18 inches wide and about 18 inches deep.
Just because of the amount of resin it would take to incorporate that whole thing, that would not be my approach.
Yeah,
I'd make 2 smaller ones out of it, but yeah, if you got a pot big enough, I'm impressed.
well, that
Just
was
because you have a 10-gallon pressure pot doesn't mean you need to fill it. You can fit that.
True.
You can wrap it with tape or something to contain the resin, and you don't have to fill the whole pressure pot. Again, Susan has done some amazing things, and she uses plastic things that she found in somebody else's trash that just barely fit around her trash wood that she has, and pours resin and doesn't have to use very much resin. And she should talk about this because she's just done some great stuff.
Sounds like you're up, Susan.
Thank you. So, well, for the resin, because, I have to work with what I have, and it just came to me that everybody's trash is somebody else's treasure. That's always how I thought. And so all of these scraps, like people throw away, I've been asking, hey, give me your scraps. And like right now, I've, been tasked at school from Dean to do a platter. And so I could do a regular platter, buy a piece of, I bought a piece of maple, which is solid, and I can make the platter, but I wanted to do something different. So I'm going to be using, about 2-inch round, and I get the ideas from you guys, just like, using sticks and everything to make like the bowl edges. Well, I'm going to use something like that for the platter and pour that with resin and just using the scraps that I have. And I only have a 5-gallon pressure pot, but I mean, it's just, I try to use as least amount of resin as possible, because, one, I'm impatient and I don't want to wait. And 2, the resin I'm using isn't a deep bore. And so, but it's fun. But I do have a piece that I don't know what to do with. So it is, I don't know if you can see it. So it has like this seam here, and then, but it is flat on the one side, but it's not very flat. There's not much there. And I didn't know if I should mount it, you know, I don't know how I would mount it, one. And if I should turn it and so that this is the bottom and then this is the top and then shape it around. I don't know how I would do this one. And I've been holding on to this one for a couple of years because I just don't know how I would mount it. But it's pretty good. I think I'm not sure what kind of it is. I don't know what it is. But what suggestions do you have?
That looks like maybe it's an oak burl. Anybody got any thoughts on that?
Well, I do. I seem like I'm the only one talking so much here, but um, um, I would put it on a drill press, put the flat side down, and then put a Forstner bit into the drill press and up in the very top, drill it straight down, yes, straight down with a Forstner bit, big enough to put a faceplate. Um, um, Not the faceplate, the faceplate ring. Or you could do the faceplate too, and then mount it that way, and then put it on the lathe and turn your tenon on the backside there, and then um, the round part that would be the top of the bowl. So yes,
So come up this way.
of course you would end up cutting some of those square edges off, and you could do that before you do anything with it. Cut
Mhm.
that part that's sticking out there.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
right here.
Right. Yeah. That's what I think I would do with it. But
Susan, before you cut into that, I would strongly urge you to show that to Walt Spencer.
Yes.
He's cut a lot of burls, and he can give you some guidance on how to approach that piece because he's done a number of burls and he can kind of visualize what the final grain is going to look like depending on how you cut through that. So I would strongly suggest you check with Spence on that.
Okay.
Susan, my opinion is, I think you need to, um, if I was going to work on it, I would change what the bottom looks like. Where those burls stick up, you want to come straight up, in my opinion, so that if you're going to cut your bowl down into that, you're going to see the pattern of those burls straight on rather than coming at them from a side or so. It'll make the
Okay.
bowl pop better.
Okay.
So for me, I would cut off the piece that sticks out that isn't burl. Yeah,
Mhm.
to your right,
Right.
now your left, and then rotate that up. No, wrong way. Go back around so uh, yeah, your flat part I would make on about a 30-degree angle, and then put a center line down through that so that as you turn into those burls, they're all going to be pointing straight at you as you look down into the bowl.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Understand? But by far, talk to Spence
Okay.
because he knows how to mount burls, and unfortunately, he's still in Spain this morning.
Right.
Oh, he's flying.
It's
Susan,
been it's been sitting for a couple of years, so a few more days is not going to make a difference.
Susan,
Yeah.
I'd like to take and show you something I've done that maybe is somewhere similar to what you're working on.
Okay.
This is what, okay, a piece, can you, everybody see this?
No, higher. A little higher. There you go.
Okay, you see it was a piece of wood like it was. I took in this one here now, and I'll show you the back side of it, and cut my tenon in there so I can hollow the thing out. Now, a few months back, I brought in a bowl of same, it was another piece just like this here. I brought in for show and tell. And you see it's a natural edge on the whole thing. You see that?
Yeah.
And it was the same kind of a piece like that. So therefore, from that one there, now I can take and what I did with this one here, I took took a Forster bit and I put it in my drill press and I had a small chuck and I just expanded it into that opening there, put the tailstock up, and then I turned the bottom, got a tenon on it, so now I can hollow it out.
Okay.
It worked real smooth on the other one there, and it turned out decent. Whether Bark will stand this one here or not, I'll see. I put a lot of ring of thin CA around the bark line there, to hopefully it'll stay on. But if not, so what? But it's a way of doing it. And if I expanded it when I put the Forster bit in, I drilled it. I expanded the chuck into it and held it that way, and it held it really good. But about the tailstock up then too, so it was very solid to take and turn the bottom of it.
Okay.
So to think about. But it was as you can see from the shape of the bark and everything on it, it was a section of a tree trunk like that.
Mm-hmm.
For what it's worth.
Yep.
Thank you. Two things have come to mind during our conversation. We talked about cactus juice, and that works, and you need the vacuum pot to make that go. The other option, though, there is a wood stabilizer product that you can get at what is it, Ace Hardware, that's in Prescott Valley, or probably True Value. And it's a product that's used to put on punky or rotting wood to get it to be solid so that you can work with it again from a carpenter standpoint. And I've used that on a few pieces. And if it's a small piece, that will work to get the wood piece stable enough so that you can then turn it. So
You are correct. There's a wood hardener. It's called wood hardener, simple as that.
yes,
Made by, I think, Menwax. But that too is pricey for a 20 ounce can of it. It was, I don't know, $18, $19 or something for that. So, um, yeah, but that does work. You're right.
Yeah, I don't know if this is, I just Googled it. Yeah, there's like a piece, what's it? I can't even see it. My eyes are so bad. PC petrifier, I don't know wood hardener from Home Depot for a gallon for 45.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I don't know if that's the same type of stuff, but
So I wanted to say, while Susan just said a few minutes ago about some pieces of wood that she uses. We're on the same page, Susan and I, about using scraps of wood. This is a little small bowl, but this is olive wood that, and a lot of you've seen this before, but this is some olive wood that I put into a small container and then poured some resin, um, blue Caribbean mica powder, I think it was. And then I put some little swirls that's called blue interference and mixed it in there. And I use those scraps like Susan does. We're on the same page, Susan. But, and so I use those. So a lot of you throwing away scraps,
don't throw them away.
give them to Susan, give them to me, and we use them for making stuff like this. So
Yeah, in the interest of fair representation, there's Susan, there's Mark, and there's oh shoot, who's the guy in Prescott Valley? Gene
Gene
Pearman.
Pearman. Yeah.
All will take little pieces of scrap and turn it into fabulous stuff.
I was just looking up, Jerry Allen uses a PC petrifier wood hardener from Ace, and he said it's the only one that he's used that's not smelly as much, and it actually sets up a lot quicker. So if you don't have a pressure vacuum vacuum system, then that's something that Jerry has used. And I'll put it
Yeah,
in the
that's the
notes.
stuff that I saw that I just Googled. Petrifier. Yep, that's it.
The other thing that went by my mind this morning, for those of you that do have a 5-gallon pressure pot, a Home Depot bucket works great for a liner for that. So if you spill resin, you don't end up sticking it to the bottom of your pressure pot.
Hmm.
All you got to do is take about 1 inch off the top, reform the wire handle a little bit so it'll fit down inside your pressure pot, and then you've got a nice liner. Now, the other thing I'll also share with you, when you do get a leak and you don't have a liner in it, ask me how I know about that. I glued a piece to the bottom of the pressure pot. Had a leak out probably close to a pint to a quart of resin and just sealed it right to the bottom of the pressure pot. And I thought, oh, sugarfoot, how am I going to deal with this? What I did is I disassembled the pot, took the casters off, took the latches off. It just fit to go into the oven, put it in the oven for about 10 minutes, pulled it out. And fortunately, we had I think there was a chuck that was part of it or something, because I could screw uh, a rod in to give me leverage. And after it'd been in the oven for a while, I just pulled on that and the whole thing popped out clean as a whistle. So if you add heat to resin, it softens it up. And if you've got a way to get a hold of it, you can pop it back out of the pressure pot.
Well, also the heat would probably expand the metal
Yep.
just enough to make that so those two events there, soften the resin and expand the metal.
What else does somebody have to share with us this morning?
Okay, I'll share this. I have a maple burl um, that I'm not sure what to do with. Um, it's rather thin. I would guess probably 2.5, 3 inches thick at the tallest spot here, but out on the edges, well, it just tapers down to half an inch or so. Um, but it's a beautiful piece of maple burl, but I'm not sure how to approach this. What to do? Thoughts?
What about cutting it in half and putting the pieces together? So like cut it right down the center and then you would take both, so then you would have the burls on both sides.
Hmm. How would I put them together? Glue them together yeah, after I cut them?
You could glue it together, or if you want to get creative, make a container and put the burl out this way on this side, the burl out this way, and then fill the center with a resin, and then you kind of have a river, and then turn it.
Okay.
And then you
Or
can
cut it into slabs.
that would make then that would make your piece bigger too. Or you could glue them together and you have a smaller piece. But if you have, a form bigger, you would put one side, and then put resin in the center.
So this spiky part, I don't know what else to call it. Would that be on the outside or the inside?
Outside.
The outside.
My
Okay.
knuckles are the spiky parts. So you would put it, so that you have, and then in the center would be resin. So just split it down the center. You put facing the spikies facing out, the shear side facing in, and then that way you're turning on the inside, and then when you're turning on the outside, those spikies will come through.
Okay.
Or cut it into strips and use them as staves and put them around, get a container. You could put them around with the spiky parts out and then put something in the middle to fill up most of the space so you don't have to use so much resin, then pour resin around the donut, and you could end up with a nice vase shape with those staves all around the outside.
That's a good idea, and I kind of thought about that a little bit. I appreciate the idea, although I'm trying to avoid straight lines. This little one that I showed you previously, it has some natural curves in there, but there are a couple of places, like on the bottom here, where it's just straight, and trying to avoid looking like I put it on the saw, which I did, to cut that straight line. But I kind of prefer the natural edge there. But maybe I could rough up the edges, so it kind of looks natural. So
Right. Get
that's an idea.
a hard sander and just rough it up
Yeah,
and
just
dip it.
or get a bastard file and just kind of rough up the edges randomly and make it look more like it's natural. So that's a good idea, Andy. I appreciate that.
Or another idea is cut it into several small pieces and like cut it with hole saw. So you end up with a bunch of discs, and the edges of those discs you could use with a file or a bandsaw or whatever to give it some more shape, and then establish a container with an outside and an inside and line these all around between the two, and then put resin in there to hold them in place and make that resin pretty clear, or a light color that goes with that. And then you'd have a lot of small pieces. And again, I think Susan would be the one to talk about that because she's just really good at that. She's done that with a lot of different things, and she's really cheap because she knows how to save on resin. She knows
The word's frugal, not cheap.
She knows how to use containers and things to not end up using very much resin.
The other thought is to just do nothing with it, because it's a beautiful piece of wood, and just leave it there, and people walk by and say, "Wow, look at that!" So I don't know. I just that's why I brought it here today, just to get opinions.
Mark, I've got another one.
Okay,
On
go
that
ahead.
note of leaving it, flat in the bottom, so it's totally flat, using a Forstner bit to flatten the center, and then on something else make something coming out of it, like a goblet of some sort, but flower, because you can make like a flower coming out of it with a base that would fit, and you would glue with a stem, and then turn like the tip, so that you could have something growing out of it.
Oh,
Actually,
okay.
Rebecca DeGroot does that. She does presentations all around the country, but she uses pieces like that, and she's used it for sea bottom with different things that she's made coming out of it, or so that she could still showcase the burl. So look up Rebecca DeGroot. She's got some ideas too.
I'll add to that and say that I would just flatten the bottom and use it as a base for maybe a turn platter, which would have some kind of a complementary texture to it. I'd hate to lose all that burl.
Mark,
Yeah.
I had an idea. Sorry.
go ahead.
I had an idea too. What if you put like a waste block on the flat bottom so you could make a tenon on there and then keep the burl, but just make like a small bowl in the top, a small bowl, not very big. So you would still have the beautiful burl around the outside of the very small burl and then take the waste block off, of course.
Hmm.
Just another thought.
Lots of interesting ideas. I like all of them.
I got one
that's
more
great.
for you.
Go ahead.
I would take your burl and I would drill 3 holes for legs on a 10-degree angle, flip it upside down so the burl part is down towards the table, but legs are long enough to keep the burl off the table. And then on what's now the flat side, hollow that out so it becomes a small little serving dish as you set on the table.
Yeah,
Can I show you something I made?
sure. Go ahead.
Did you get
Do
a
I have
camera?
to hold this button down the whole time?
We don't see you though,
We don't
Philip.
see the camera. Have you got a camera, Phil?
Well,
Let me see. Lower left corner, is there a line through your video?
no, I
Uh,
don't think it has a camera.
are you on a laptop?
Are you on your laptop?
Yes,
Go to
So
the
it
Yes.
top of your screen and is there a little slide bar that's just barely visible? Because sometimes on mine, I got a little switch that will block the camera so you can't see, or I slide it the other way to the left so the camera is visible.
you know, I actually don't think it has a camera.
Okay. It'll be hard for us to see what you're holding up.
That
You
would
got to
be,
move
that
your
would,
mouse to have it show up, Phil. You got to move your mouse around and it'll show up in the lower left corner.
lower left corner.
Yeah,
This-
you should
It
see
says
some
select video.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Well, now if I get this other bar off of here.
Yeah, select camera. Have you got integrated webcam?
I don't know about this stuff.
All right. I'll come over and take a look sometime when we get a chance.
Okay.
You'll have to bring what you want to show us on Saturday.
That's a good idea, Susan. Just bring it Saturday and we'll all take a look at it.
Okay, I'll do that. Did you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. See you Saturday.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Phil. My wife just
Yes.
came up with a good idea. Bring your laptop on Saturday and I can check it out while we're at the meeting.
Okay, I'll do that.
Another good idea.
Very good idea.
While we have a little bit of a lull here, I wanted to ask Susan, are your ears ringing? So at the board meeting earlier this week on Tuesday, I gave you some pretty good accolades for your help with the sale the last Saturday.
Well,
You know, you did such a fantastic, phenomenal job at helping me at the cashier station, and let the rest of the board know what a great job you did there. So thanks.
Oh,
thank you. Hey,
Phil has
Phil,
a camera.
I see your camera.
Yeah, I've been pushing all the buttons.
Well, you did good,
Oh,
but now it
Whatever
went
you
away.
did, undo.
Now can I show you?
no, we lost the camera. Push the button again.
Yeah, you just turned it off again. So
There you go.
Oh, is now the camera working?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, here it
No,
comes.
it's not.
Oh, there it is. You're good. Oh, wow.
Wow,
Okay.
that's a big piece.
Okay, wait a minute. Oh, wow.
So you left the burl on the edges.
Yeah, I made an end table.
Now I lost your microphone.
There you go.
Now I don't have to bring it, huh?
Right.
No,
Okay.
you bring
I
it
will.
anyhow. You bring it anyhow because it's coming and going. You every time you push the talk button, your picture goes away.
Oh, that's not good.
Well, that depends. I think it is.
Oh,
What are friends for?
If
thanks
you're
a
for
lot.
love, don't come here.
I got one other piece of information to share. We've talked about pouring stuff with resin and making custom molds so it doesn't take up so much resin. This is the perfect time of year because old campaign signs, particularly those that have got the hollow core, work very well for making molds. You can slit one side of it and then just wrap it around something round, and it makes a very good mold to seal and contain resin.
With regard to unusual shapes and still using resin, I would suggest that you look back on some of the videos. Um, Gene Perriman has done this a number of times with all sorts of different ways to contain the resin. And I know there's a couple of his videos from demos, club demos are on the website. Gene has done a great job of using very little amounts of resin. He's used things like plastic sheeting and I believe milk carton plastic to try to minimize the amount of volume he needs for the resin. So go look for those videos on our website.
Yeah, that's where I got a few of my ideas on using my sticks from my trees and stuff. Yep.
What was his last name?
Harriman.
Perryman,
Perryman.
Ryman. Yeah.
So if you do use those campaign signs to make your vessel, don't forget to use the mold release because oh, don't ask me how I know that because it was very difficult to get that off. And I suppose you could put it on the lathe and turn it off, but it's kind of messy. But yeah, don't forget to use that mold release spray stuff. Stoner makes one
What did you
mold
say
release,
was?
but I'm sure there's others.
What did you say was prevalent this time of year that was good for that?
Campaign signs.
Campaign sign.
Yeah. And there's technically, you're not supposed to remove them yourself. And there are actually companies that get paid to put them up and to take them down. And if you get a hold of them, they'll give you all you want.
I think you can use Tyvek home wrap to coat anything to make it so the resin doesn't stick to it. You can have any shape and use Tyvek, and then the resin won't stick to that very well. So you could turn a shape on the lathe out of wood and then align it with that.
Hmm.
And of course, you won't get a perfect when it releases. It won't get a perfect shape, but you'll save a lot of resin that way. I know for river tables and all like that, they use Tyvek to line their basin thing that they've made, and the resin doesn't stick to it. So I think you could use that as a coating for just about anything,
Mhm.
like a mold release, but you could use that. It might work real well.
Got it.
I suppose if somebody's building a house and the construction crew has some left over, maybe you could abscond with that, maybe? Is that where you get it?
Well, it'll be in their dumpster, the small
Oh,
pieces they have left. But you can buy it. You can buy Tyvek,
okay.
Yeah.
Home Depot or
I'm,
wherever.
I'm for the cheap end. Like my mom, she goes through sour cream like crazy. And so I buy her these big tubs of sour cream. I use sour cream containers. And then I'll cut the sour cream container and then use that and, hot glue the edges and stuff so that, but yeah, I'm cutting and piecemealing. But I like the mold release on some of my other molds. That works really, really well.
Is sour cream a natural mold release? All right. Anybody got anything else? Thank you, one and all, for joining this morning. It's been a very interesting conversation. And I look forward to the next time. Remember, we won't have a meeting in December, but we'll start up again in January.
But we have our general meeting on Saturday.
And we do. So
Should
See
be
you
an
there.
interesting one. The IRD coming up that we're gonna tap into, right?
right.
Yep.
Yes, Saturday will be Craig Timmerman, who's going to show how to make a Taurus bud vase, which Taurus, if you don't remember, is a donut shape. And he's got a very interesting way to turn that Taurus. So I think everybody will enjoy his IRD. So look forward to that on Saturday.
And remember to get your checks in for the Christmas party, and you don't have to worry about being stuck with turn of the year because we're not going to award a turn of the year this year.
So no excuses not to come.
Bruce, do you have a topic for the next meeting?
I don't. Do you have one you want to suggest?
Oh, I'm just wondering.
That's long range planning. But I'm open for suggestions for topics anytime. So okay. Well, thanks, one and all.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Bruce. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Good job, Bruce. Thanks.
Bye, thank you.